5 emotionally intelligent habits for handling frustration at work. That sudden rush of anger when a coworker blames you, a feeling of disappointment when your idea is rejected, resentment towards a bad boss, and the stress of meeting other people's expectations can be a constant source of frustration at work. Getting irritated by the things around you comes from your desire to be in control, your personal bias around how the world and people in it should be organized. It's natural to crave a perfect work experience and feel frustrated when one does not exist. But are you focusing on the right thing? What do you do to deal with frustration that comes from not liking something? After being stuck in a spiral of feeling frustrated, you panic about the situation, feel powerless, which adds stress and anxiety to your life, and then do absolutely nothing about it. Instead of wasting time overthinking about the things that cause you frustration at work, know that you cannot get rid of them, but you can learn to respond to them in a healthy manner. Before we move on to strategies, let's understand the impact of unhandled frustration. When you ignore whatever annoys you about work, you fail to express how you feel and do not learn to get past it. This lets the inner conflict bubble up inside. Unhandled frustration at work leads to psychological displacement, a term coined by Sigmund Freud, which is an unconscious defense mechanism in which our mind substitutes a new aim or a new object when we perceive goals in their original form to be dangerous or unacceptable. It operates in the mind unconsciously with transference of emotions, ideas, and wishes in the face of aggressive impulses. Snapping at your child, your spouse, or a family member after a bad day at work is an example of this defense mechanism. Instead of managing your emotions from work productively, you deal with them by lashing it out at your family, since it's much easier to react to them than acknowledging and handling the real source of your frustration. Amy Anston, an American neuroscientist, says that this can seriously impair your judgment. The release of high levels of catecholamines during uncontrollable stress rapidly switches the brain from a thoughtful reflective state to a more unconscious reflexive state. This may save our lives when we are in danger, but is often unhelpful when we need top down control to properly guide our actions and decisions. By handling frustrations well, you can remove unhealthy distractions, focus on work that adds value, and build better relationships in life. Now, let's talk about the 5 emotionally intelligent habits to deal with frustration at work. Number 1, know your triggers to act with intention instead of reacting to your circumstances. Sun Tzu, an ancient Chinese philosopher, said, know yourself and you will win all battles. By identifying specific triggers that cause you frustration, you can shift from reacting emotionally to acting with intent. David Rock's CAF model is based on neuroscience research, and it provides 5 domains of social experience, which are a powerful tool to give language to your experience. When feeling frustrated, identify which of these is a trigger for your emotion. Status. Do you view the situation as a status threat? Certainty. Are you unclear about expectations and your future? Autonomy. Do you feel powerless to make your own decisions? Relatedness. Do you find it hard to connect to others since they seem unreal and inauthentic? Fairness. Is it a matter of not being treated fairly compared to others? Now that you know your triggers, the next step is to manage your story. Number 2, separate fact from fiction by telling yourself the right story. We create stories in our minds and assume a central position in a lot of drama at work, even when we hardly have a role to play. It's our tendency to exaggerate every situation that makes us fall for the common thinking traps that clouds our judgment. We assume everyone is out to get us, find it hard to separate fact from fiction, and create a narrative that validates our beliefs and assumptions while disregarding everything that contradicts our point of view. By incorporating a sense of inquiry into your frustration, you can base your emotion on the reality of your situation as opposed to fiction. When dealing with frustration, learn to separate fact from fiction by asking yourself these questions. What's the story I'm telling myself? How do I know if this story is true? What are the other possible alternative explanations? What's my contribution to the situation? How might others view it? Once you have the right story, it's time to manage your expectations. Number three, manage what's under your control by managing your own expectations. Expectation feeds frustration. While a healthy dose of frustration can be useful for you to push ahead in your goals, it's the unmet expectations from things beyond your control and your obsession to seek external validation that can be a source of large amount of frustration at work. You can control how you do certain things, but cannot dictate how others will respond to it. Putting in unnecessary effort to please others, considering approval as a sense of your worth, and expecting people to behave in certain ways can be a source of constant disappointment and frustration at work. By setting realistic goals that are under your control, you can save yourself from the path that ultimately leads to frustration. To manage your expectations and avoid frustration, ask yourself these questions. What do I want? Why is this important to me? Is it within my circle of influence or outside it? What changes can I make to better manage my own expectations? Feeling in control will make you feel powerful and give you the courage to have difficult conversations. Number four, learn to have crucial conversations, even if they are uncomfortable at first. When another person is a source of your frustration, do you whine about their behavior or do you practice courage to speak to them and share your frustration? Difficult conversations are uncomfortable, no doubt. We are trained as a species to avoid conflicts, as it requires going against a very basic instinct of fight or flight. Instead of showing your frustration, behave in a manner that will move you closer to the outcomes you desire. By having a calm and productive discussion, you can manage frustration at work that seeps in due to differences of opinions, conflicting priorities, and varying expectations. Joseph Grenny, an author, says, every time we find ourselves arguing, debating, running away, or otherwise acting in an ineffective way, it's because we don't know how to share meaning. Instead of engaging in healthy dialogue, we play silly and costly games. Joseph advises that you ask yourself these questions. What do I really want for myself? What do I really want for others? What do I really want for the relationship? How would I behave if I really wanted these results? What if none of these strategies work? Try out this last strategy. Number five, spin a positive narrative by considering every frustration as an opportunity to learn. Adam Grant, an organizational psychologist, says disgruntled people often go into office space mode, choosing to fight by sabotaging the workplace or flight by doing the bare minimum not to get fired. But there's a third reaction to frustration that we've overlooked. When we're dissatisfied, instead of fight or flight, sometimes we invent. Frustration is the feeling of being blocked from a goal. Although it sounds like a destructive emotion, it can actually be a source of creative fuel. When we are frustrated, we reject the status quo, question the way things have always been done, and search for new and improved methods. Instead of relying on your default setting by assuming the worst possible outcome, try to spin a positive narrative on your situation. Reframing can be a powerful technique to learn from your situation. To reframe your frustration, ask yourself these questions. What does this situation teach me about myself? What good can I get from it? What are the possible solutions to get past my feelings of frustration? Have I overlooked something which can be useful to manage my frustration better? You can either let frustrations suck away into your time, prevent you from achieving your goals, and impact your well being by adding stress and anxiety to your life. Or you can make small changes around you and dim down the effects of these frustrations by knowing that you have the power to change.